A very good morning, everyone. I am Sudeep Kumar Das, your host for today, taking this opportunity to welcome all the speakers and panel members, as well as the participants for taking out time. Uh, Today's AI topic, which is actually very dear to me as well, is on agricultural intelligence and how AI is actually fueling data-driven agriculture. So agriculture has played a huge role in shaping India's economy and providing employment to almost half of the country's population. The gross value add by agriculture is around USD 421 billion and in 2019 and 20, which is around 16.2% of India's GDP. With government of India's goal of doubling farmers' income by 2022 is making technology adoption in this sector an imperative. Keeping this in mind, KTech COE DSN AI in association with India AI and NASCOM Insights is delighted to present this edition of AI Party on agricultural intelligence. In this edition, we will be trying to understand how agricultural sector in India is harnessing the power of AI to enhance productivity and profitability. The duration of this virtual event will be 45 minutes, comprising of a keynote, launch of the AI agricultural playbook, and an engaging panel discussion. So with further ado, I would like to invite our distinguished keynote speaker, Mr. Unnikrishnan Nair, who is the regional head of digital transformation and IT in Bayer Crop Science, Asia Pacific. During his professional journey, Uni has worked in Asia, Europe, North America for many years, focusing on enterprise transformation as well as IT as a function. Bayer has an ambitious plan to serve 100 million smallholder farmers worldwide by 2030, and technology is the only way to make it a reality. Considering the major yield gap faced by smallholder farmers compared to commercial farmers in the West, there are major opportunities to bring latest farming techniques as well as connect farmers to the right market linkages to secure better value using digital technologies. So with further ado, Uni, over to you.
Thank you, Sudeep. First of all, I want to say thank you to NASCOM for providing this opportunity to share provide a keynote when it comes to AI in agriculture. And, so Sudeep, if you can allow me to share the screen, I'll be able to show the slides and then move on.
Sure. Are you able to do it now?
Not yet.
Supriya, you would have to enable Uni. Yes, Uni, go ahead.
Okay.
Are you able to share your screen, Unni?
Yeah. Are you able to see my screen now?
Not yet.
I can see your screen.
Yes, yes, we can.
All right. Okay, great. Thank you. A bit of technology challenges, but that's okay. So over the next 10 minutes, I'll be just touching upon the the power of AI and how we can harness that for advancing agricultural challenges which is faced by farmers today. So I'll just give you an overview of the key challenges which is faced by agriculture on a worldwide basis today. According to FAO report, demand for the agriculture produce is going to be increased by 50% because of the expected growth in population, which is going to be 10 billion by 2050. And also that would mean that there is going to be an increase of protein and meat consumption by around 70%. At the same time, when you really look at the areas where we are farming, there are harvest losses up to 17%, and around 10 million acres of hectares of agricultural land is lost because of all kinds of natural challenges we are facing today. Also, if you look at it, 0.16 hectares land per capita is what's available now. So that compared to 1950s to 2014, you can see that it's gone down from around 0.52 hectare per head to 0.19 hectare by 2014. So availability of land is going down. There are natural disasters increasing, which is affecting the overall area to produce, as well as there are harvest losses happening at the same time, while there is an increase in terms of demand for food, protein, as well as the number of people. So if you take all these things together, how do we really tackle this challenge of yield is the question which is coming to all the agricultural companies, and Bayer is no exception to this. If you look at what is actually impacting yield as a key output, it's a function of genetics, environment, and farming practices. Genetics is something which has been advancing quite a lot. If you look at all the latest COVID situations and how the vaccine development has happened because of the advanced knowledge of genome structures using artificial intelligence and big data processing capabilities, we are using exactly the same capability to see and learn about the plants which we normally grow for our food, and how can we influence those genome structures to advance our hybrid development process and cut short the throughput time normally it takes. So that is one aspect of it. And the second one obviously is the environment in which we are actually growing these particular plants, and how can we understand and predict the environmental variables and take proactive actions to make sure that the plants are getting the right kind of phenotypical environment to grow. And the farming practices are basically really understanding how do we ensure that all the best practices which are prescribed to make sure that the plant is growing healthily as well as generating the right amount of yield is achieved through the right application of crop protection products, as well as through fertigation and irrigation at the right optimal level. So what we are actually doing is basically making sure that we are offering to farmers leading products, and also offering product combinations to make sure that they get the best yield out of it. Also, we are basically developing capabilities which enables farmers to get notified well in advance so that they can take corrective actions before the event really happens in an environmental way. And also looking at how can we offer farmers the best genetics, the best advisory, and also the best environment in terms of predictive analytics. So this is the combination we are actually offering to farmers to make sure that the overall yield is much better than what is available in a normal farming practices. Now, coming to the Asia Pacific and also India, China included in this, if you look at the landscape worldwide, there are two key segments of farmers, if you want to call it that way. One is what we call as commercial farming segment, which is there in the Western world, where hundreds of thousands of acres of land is owned by a farmer, or rather a company. And in this part of the world where the landhold is extremely small. And that's why we basically have this categorization of smallholders and commercial farmers. In the case of commercial farming segment, there is a lot of possibility for us to provide professional agronomists go to the field and analyze the situation and give the right advisory. Whereas in the smallholder landscape, that is simply impossible because the number of farmers is too high and cost to serve is prohibitive. So digital technology is the one which is really going to help us to make sure that we are able to improve the overall yield of farmers by making sure that the farmers are following the best practices we developed, and communicated through digital technologies. Just to explain how the lay of the land looks like when it comes to small farmers, worldwide, we are talking about around 570 million farmers. Out of that, around 500 are smallholder farmers. And again, concentration of these smallholder farmers are in China, around 175 million. In India, it's around 110, 120 million, and around 100 million in Southeast Asia. So you can see that there is a heavy concentration of small farmers in this part of the world. Now, if you look at why is it so significant, in terms of food supply, 80% of food production in developing countries are happening in this part of the world. And at the same time, the productivity is only 50% of the average. So there you can see the yield difference, which is obviously bringing the biggest level of challenges for the small farmers. Now, if you really analyze a little bit more, what exactly are the set of challenges the farmers are facing? What we did within Bayer is to really analyze something called the farmer journey. We basically segmented the total farming season into different blocks and then analyzed what are the key sets of decisions the farmers are forced to make, and are they equipped with the right set of data to make the right kind of choices, yes or no. Just an analysis of it, you can see that there is a within the farm, after the farm gate, there are two separate sections. And in that, we basically are talking about decision on crop and seed, preparing the soil, growing the crop, harvesting, storage and transport, sales, processing, wholesale and retail. There are all kinds of different phases in a life of a farmer. And each and every phase, you can find different set of challenges. And if you analyze further into these set of challenges, you can see that there are primarily 5 different blocks which comes in. Number 1 is lack of fair and viable sustainable financial resources for the farmers. Number 2 is whether the farmers are really getting a fair net income. The third one is whether they have the real access to newer technologies and resources. Fourth one is whether they have the right access to the market where they can get a fair price for their produce. And the fifth one is whether they do have a proper insurance for all kinds of vagaries of nature which the farmers are exposed to. So these are the 5 key sets of challenges farmers are facing. And if you break it down further into these particular blocks of challenges, you will find that there are decisions below these, and having the right kind of information and access to technology can help the farmer's life a lot more. How are we actually tackling this particular problem? One thing what we realized is that these 40 decision points which farmers actually make during the farming season is actually managed by different stakeholders. It is not that a company like Bayer, for instance, can solve all the problems. We basically analyzed these problem statements and identified different ecosystem players who has a stake in ensuring that the farmer's business in the end is successful. So what we did is we basically launched something called Better Life Farming as an initiative. And the key objective of this one is to really see whether we can team up with ecosystem players and offer a holistic solution to the farmer, so that from the beginning till the end, we are there all through the way until the farmer really gets a fair income. And that's the only way we can make sure that farming is a sustainable business for the future. Now, how do we really do that? We basically have developed this, what we call as a proof of concept, and we recruited a lot of different farmers, and we basically ran this entire process together with our ecosystem players, ecosystem partners. And one of these examples is shown here. For instance, we basically have run a pilot with green chili farmers in India, in Telangana. And what you can see here is that if you really look at a P&L statement of a farmer, the marketable yield in a normal situation is around 7.8 tons per acre. However, with our advanced advisories and farming practices, that was increased to 15.8 tons per acre. The revenue translation, if you really look at it, a normal farmer, while they are getting around 1.25 lakhs, in this case, it was increased to 3.5 lakhs. Cost in terms of spend, normally it comes to around 77.5 thousand. versus 1.6 lakhs in this particular case. So the cost is definitely has gone up. However, the profit in the overall situation has gone up from 46,000 to 1.78 lakhs. So overall percentage wise, if you really look at it, you can see that this is a very, very compelling value proposition which we managed to develop. And obviously this is just a proof of concept. We are basically recruiting at this particular point what we call as Better Life Farming Centers. So these are individuals, entrepreneurs who are ready to work together with us. And what we do is basically we provide scientific training to these people. We also ensure that our financial partners are available to provide support for the farmers whoever wants to be part of this particular Better Life Farming Center. We have irrigation partners, we have fertigation partners, we have financial partners. All of us together are making sure that a group of farmers in the catchment area of a Better Life Farming Center, the picture you can see bottom right, are basically connected to this particular nervous system. And then they basically get all the advisories necessary. And as a group, their overall yield level is increasing. And we are basically making sure that companies like Big Basket and other market access companies are linked up to this ecosystem to make sure that at the time of harvest, their producers are getting a fair price. So this is basically the way we are actually tackling it. So there are a lot of decisions which the farmers are taking. We are developing capabilities using AI as well to support the farmers to make the right choices. And at the same time, on the physical level, we are providing these kinds of simple yet powerful solutions to farmers to improve their overall status of life and making sure that their families are also having better life moving forward. So that is essentially what I wanted to share. Back to you guys.
Thank you, Uni. Thank you so much. I would just request you to pass on the host rights to me. And in the meantime, thank you, Uni. It was a great keynote, very informative. Now, I would like to invite Snehanshu Mitra, who's the AI leader at NASSCOM, to launch the AI playbook on agriculture, followed by Rima, the AI research specialist at NASSCOM, who will provide the key insights to the report. Snehanshu, over to you.
Thank you, Sudeep. For some reason, I'm unable to start my video. So if you can try and...
Now you should. Snehanshu.
Lovely. Am I audible and visible?
Snehanshu.
Snehanshu?
Yeah. Am I audible and visible?
Yes, yes, you are.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you, Sudeep. And Uni Krishnan, that was a very informative opening note, like Sudeep suggested, and thanks a lot for doing this for us. Last year, we embarked on this whole journey to provide a detailed sectoral overview of AI adoption in 4 key domains that were of significant interest to in India. These were retail, BFSI, healthcare, and agriculture. My pleasure today to be here to release the playbook titled Leveraging Artificial Intelligence to Maximize India's Agricultural Output. Just to synopsize what this report contains, and we'll talk a lot more about it over the next half an hour or so. We believe that this report will act as a ready reckoner for the enablement of agricultural ecosystem. It will help drive AI adoption in the sector, solving challenges across the value chain. It also presents a wide spectrum of AI opportunities for the agricultural sector in India. Very interestingly, we have also come up with a use case prioritization matrix because there's potentially so much to be done here. We've also defined certain strategic bold plays to help the ecosystem players navigate existing and the upcoming challenges, right, in this area. I must call out a couple of things that this report is a joint production of NASSCOM Insights and KTech Center of Excellence for Data Science and AI. But I would also like to place on record our deep appreciation for our research partner, Ernst & Young. I think their efforts have been central towards publishing this report. So thank you so much. With that, let us video on the report to mark its launch. Sudeep, can you play the video, please?
Sure.
so much. Thank you so much. And let me now invite my colleague Rima Aswani to talk you through the highlights of this report. Over to you, Rima.
Hi, thank you, Snehanshu, for a quick brief about what the report is and the whole collaboration between the teams and the research partner. I'll just quickly walk everybody through the key findings of the report, leveraging AI to maximize India's agricultural output. So I think Sudeep, Snehanshu, and even Unni Krishnan have highlighted the Indian agriculture's growth story and the fact that there are many challenges that hold its progress back, comprising of declining agri workforce, farmer income, which is reduced to $1,700 per year, 87% of the farmers with farms less than 3 acres, and about 1% farms that use tractors. So there is growth, but all of this is happening in a lot more stressful environment. Here we're here to talk about how AI can play this key role in relieving the sector from its stressful input conditions and catalyzing the shift towards data-driven farming. Some of the key areas and the use cases in the agri space from an AI perspective comprise of precision farming, crop quality readiness identification, personalized sowing harvestry, pricing forecast for agricultural commodities, and there are many more. But what the key thing that lies beneath all of these AI use cases is the availability of data. The most efficient way of utilizing the transformational capability of AI is to combine real-time farm level data with the standard macro level data that's available with regions and state to provide advisories, inputs, alerts to farmers to manage their yield and crop mix. So like I said, there are two kinds of data. There's this real-time macro level data about rainfall, satellites, cyclones, market pricing that's available with us. It is very important that we identify these data sources, consolidate the data, democratize the data, do certain AI pilots, validate them, and then scale those relevant AI use cases. When it comes to the real-time farm level data, that is something that is still lacking from an India perspective. This data could come from IoT sensors at farm level. It could be the soil health data. It could even be livestock health data. It is very important that we build awareness amongst farmers, amongst the community. We install the right kind of devices, sensors. We leverage the data that's collected from those sensors, and then we provide real-time advisory. So the underlying success of AI in agriculture lies in the whole data consolidation that needs to be done. Like Unni also mentioned, that AI-led solutions have a potential to address farm and livestock challenges across the value chain. In a similar way that they've categorized the value chain, we've also put together the AI value chain in terms of agricultural inputs and supply, production and harvesting, storage, processing and distribution. And there are many challenges across each of these value chain segments that AI can help us cope with and help the agri sector advance in terms of technology, specifically AI. Through this research, what we've done is we proposed a unique periodic table that highlights the AI opportunities, that helps everybody understand the art of possible. What can AI do for you across agricultural inputs and supply? If we see some of the high intensity use cases could be seed selection, soil analysis, weather advisory. If we come to the production and harvesting, it could be precision farming, agricultural robots, yield improvement advisory, in fact, livestock disease management and monitoring as well. And when we come to the last phase of the agri value chain, which is storage, processing, distribution, retailing, produce grading, quality checks, food sorting, demand, supply, and matching are some of the high intensity use case. Our full report has the full periodic table and ways in which this periodic table can be used. So now we've seen what is the potential of AI in the agri space and how can it help. Like Snehanshu mentioned, there is a lot to be done and we can do a lot, but it is important to understand what can we start with first, how can we prioritize. So we present to you a use case prioritization matrix, which is a 2x2 matrix, which takes into consideration the value creation and the ease of implementation, because in the current scenario where we have a lot that can be done, it is very important to prioritize what is important, what is impactful, and what is easy to implement. So if we talk about the quick wins There are weather advisory related use cases, yield improvement advisory, produce grading, equipment maintenance. That are some of the areas where we can have these quick wins. When we talk about the big bets, which are the use cases with high value creation, but a low ease of implementation, specifically from an India perspective, these are precision farming, agricultural robots, automated weeding, seed selection, and so on and so forth. So now once we know what's possible, what can be prioritized, it is important to see how can all of this come together. And that is where the agricultural ecosystem comes into play, like Unni also highlighted. It is important that we focus on improving the farm output, increasing affordability, and disseminating the right information. And that is where all of the entire ecosystem can come together. If we look at the agricultural stack, data, which is the key enabler of AI in agriculture, government and government bodies can play a huge role in helping provide the right kind of data, helping with the right kind of policies to ensure that data is available. Infrastructure and platform that can be built on top of that data can be provided by technology product companies along with service providers that can help with the cloud infrastructure, intelligent platforms that can be leveraged by the top layer, which is the AI applications. Here we have the startups and the service providers that can work on front-end applications that use a combination of analytics, AI, and not to forget IoT to provide the right kind of advisory to help farmers increase profitability and productivity. Along with this, we also propose a maturity model which agricultural enterprises can adopt. And here are some of the dimensions of our AI maturity model on the left. And the report also provides some strategic bold plays that can help agricultural enterprises advance from the initial phase of maturity to a final phase of maturity. So these are some of the key things that our report has to offer. I would invite everybody to download the report and get back to us in case of any suggestions at research@nascom.in. So thank you and have a great day.
Thank you, Rima, for this insightful report analysis and sharing it with us. With that, I would like to pass on the baton to Achyuta Ghosh, and welcoming Achyuta Ghosh, the head of research at NASSCOM, who will be moderating our panel discussion today and also would be introducing the other panelists. Achyuta, over to you.
Thank you, Sudeep. Thank you for the introduction, and thank you, Rima, for sharing the key findings of the report. Sudeep already mentioned agriculture's contribution, 16% to India's GDP, about 45% of India's workforce is engaged in that. But despite India being an agrarian economy and a top producer and exporter of several commodities, India faces multiple challenges: high weather dependency, supply chain inefficiencies, resource depletion, low productivity. These are factors that hold back India from performing to its true potential. We've seen increased government support, growing class of agri-tech startups and providers, rising digital adoption among the rural population. I mean, these are big drivers for growth of technology into the sector. And also with COVID-19 putting pressure, it's also now important more than ever before for the farming community to adopt AI to drive their farm productiveness and income. Building on this, we want to spend the next 20-25 minutes discussing with agri-tech practitioners on what are the best practices in adoption of AI from an Indian agriculture context. I have a great lineup of speakers. Quick round of introduction. First up is Manikandan Balasubramanian. Mani is a director with the Intelligent Automation and AI practice at EY. Over 18 years of business and technology consulting experience. He's worked across clients on problems ranging from strategy, business execution. Last 4 or 5 years, he's been delivering transformation using digital technologies. Mani has been a part of the research effort that NASSCOM did to get this report out. Next is Roli Jindal. She is the co-founder of RMSI Cropalytics. Rolly is a marketing and innovation expert who has commercialized several new products and services in a 25-year career across industries and domains with companies such as Titan Watches, Dabur, and DuPont. At RMSI Cropalytics, she has led the development of Pincer, a comprehensive crop information management platform for agri-related sectors. And then we have Praveen Pankajakshan, who's the Vice President, Data Science and AI at Cropin, and he's also a visiting faculty at Amachi Labs, Amrita Vishwa Vidyapitam. He graduated with his PhD in control signal and image processing from INRIA, France. His research work in the past decade has spanned application of machine learning to energy, utility, healthcare, and life sciences. He practices organic farming in his farm and is a certified heartfulness meditation trainer. Good to have all three of you in this discussion. And as far as the discussion goes, we will go with this following structure: 2 rounds of questions for each panelist. Given the time constraints, I would request the audience to put their questions on chat in the Q&A section, and NASSCOM or all the speakers will get back to them post the call on that. Getting started, Manikandan, first question is up for you. You've been a part of this NASSCOM research exercise, talking to over 100 plus agriculture focused organizations. What came out as best practices to drive AI adoption in agriculture? The challenge for you, Manikandan, is to cover this in 3 minutes.
Well, from a AI adoption standpoint, I think from a best practice, like Achita, we covered multiple sectors. The kind of challenges and the best practices are quite consistent. Of course, agriculture has its own nuances, which I can talk about. But primarily the challenge, one of the first challenges that the participants called out is in terms of identifying the right use cases, right? And then I think we had a discussion around that in terms of how do you really match your problem statement to what is the capabilities of AI as a technology element? How do you really bridge that gap? We as practitioners and advisors, we find that as the sweet spot where we can help bridge that gap. But really, what is the art of possible using AI technologies and the ability to reimagine the business use cases or the operating model applying AI technologies is the fundamental thing. As with many sectors, and the problem of data and data quality, I think starting with Unni and Rima and other speakers, the problem of data quality was addressed, and that's central. And the problem is quite pronounced with agriculture as a sector. If we again look at the entire value chain in 3 pillars, right, in terms of inputs and supply to production and harvesting to processing and distribution. One of the other EY studies identified that almost 60% of the total funding to agri-tech companies have gone into the space of the last leg in terms of supply chain effectiveness and output market linkages, right? It's quite understandable. It's not very difficult to understand why that's the case. Primarily because there is a lot of consolidation. There's a lot of organized construct to it. Therefore, there is wherewithal to invest in technology infrastructure and therefore digitization, data availability. So data quality and availability seems to be a fundamental driver in terms of identifying or the challenge for the agricultural structure, especially if you're looking at farming as an example, where it's not very easy to get farm level data. You do have global data sets that you can leverage, but at farm level data is very difficult to harness and generate and so on and so forth. So that's another thing. From a quick win identification standpoint, wherever there is good quality data, there is access to technology, etc. Those are some of the use cases that people have gone about. And they have taken certain measures in terms of understanding the art of possible that has enabled identifying the right set of use cases that they can pursue from an agriculture sector standpoint. It's very consistent with other sectors as well. Of course, from a data quality standpoint, availability standpoint, agriculture has some pronounced challenges. That said, as a practitioner, so at every enterprise level, like I said, the prioritization of the use cases has been driven by the data available, the access to technologies that are available, and so on and so forth. One of the advices as a practitioner, when we look at AI use cases that I want to leave with is that, when we look at the AI use case and evaluate, so from a input standpoint, you look at the data, so on, models, and so on and so forth. But from a business outcome, business benefit standpoint, when you evaluate it, we should evaluate the business outcome with a pessimistic lens of the model performance itself. AI as such is a learning platform. Therefore, the outcomes or the insights that you deliver out of the AI models that you build may not be up to your expectations, right? From the word go, right? So, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so Mani, I think we kind of come back to that in the next round if possible. Can I just move to the next panelist?
Sure.
So Rolly, the question is up to you. The next question, at Cropanalytics, you have led the development of an information management platform for agri. What were your key learnings in the process? 3 minutes, Rolly. Please go ahead.
Thank you. As we heard through the talks, AI can help make interventions both on the input and the output side more effective. And we've seen that there are many different technologies that are being used for the gathering of data. Sensors and photographs. We've heard about IoT devices, drones, satellite imagery, farm level data. The important learning what we've had is that some of these technologies are scalable and cost effective over large areas. For example, satellite technology, which is very important for a country like India. There are other technologies such as drones, which are very good at collecting high quality data from a very localized area. So the choice of technology must really be driven by the purpose. What we're seeing is that a lot of agri-tech companies end up specializing in a particular technology, and then they kind of flog it for every, in every application. So as the use of AI in agriculture matures, I'm hopeful that a clearer understanding will emerge about the suitability of various technologies in various situations. So that's the quick answer to your question, Achyuta. Back to you.
Thank you, Rolly. Praveen, next question is for you. India presents unique challenges to adoption of AI. We already talked about that: data availability, quality, fragmented market, infrastructure, all those are issues. So how did Cropin surmount India-specific challenges to drive AI adoption? 3 minutes, Praveen. Go ahead.
Thanks, Achyuta. So firstly, I'm going to probably wear 3 hats, if you may. One is the hat of my current role in Cropin, and the other is as a researcher in machine learning and data science. The other is as my own personal journey as an organic farmer, for the past 5 years. And the third role that I'll play is as an academician, as my role as a faculty. Okay. So what I can tell you is, firstly, it's important, and I think all of the speakers have, spoke about it. When we talk about agriculture, the farmer becomes the center stage. Not only that, the consumer as well, right? Because these days the consumer are looking at choices which they make, and they want to know the choices they benefit or not. And the third beneficiary in this is the planet. So agriculture itself has a very high footprint, carbon footprint, and so, or even water footprint. So what is best for the planet as well? So there are these 3 beneficiaries as well. Now, when we talk about AI adoption, one of the challenges which we face right now, even as we speak, is that there is this idea that AI will solve many of the problems, which we currently face. And with the result that there is a lot of expectations on that, and often it becomes challenging to manage those expectations, because there are a few and many important problems which AI can solve. And we have to be humble and honest enough to accept that there are a few others which we cannot solve, and which becomes the grassroots innovation problem, right? And I think Mani also talked about it, and Roli also talked about it, and the earlier speakers as well. But pinpointing it very specifically is that we have been looking at much more, if you look at the farmer's journey, right? And if I start from the farmer and then backtrace it, then what is the most important thing that I'm looking at from a farmer perspective is that firstly, for adoption of that, it should be usable. So how can I make it usable for the farmer? So really putting ourselves in that shoes, and that's where, I come from that farmer's perspective. And what are they interested in? So if it is not usable, there will be difficulty in adoption. So one of the things that we looked at is a farmer already knows about their field. Can we augment that with more information? And Roli talked about satellite imaging. So for example, for certain, most of the farmers, through satellite imaging, can we actually provide them with health, monitoring over a period of time? Can we provide there are a lot of uncertainties. Can I reduce the uncertainties? A lot of information that is flowing from a farmer. So how can I make him or her make best decisions? And so if their needs are addressed, then the adoption becomes a simple affair. So one way which we looked at is to really look at the core needs of the farmer, which is to reduce this uncertainty related to pest and disease infestation. How can AI help in forecasting that and providing some risk or inputs availability? A lot of people talked about supply chain and variability in the market, the pricing market. All of that, can I reduce it? And also at a larger scale, say also the farmer, give them a bird's eye view, if you may, or satellite view of how their farm itself is performing, and kind of backtrace it to the root cause. So it has to benefit them, and if there is a benefit in it, farmers adopt it. So
Sure.
That's a short.
Thanks, Praveen. And what's the accuracy currently in the forecasting that you do? I mean, is it fairly high? Is it where is the current range now?
So when we talk of accuracy, this is really variable. If you look at crop identification, a lot of, for example, government bodies and banks, and they're interested in having aggregates of crop identification from satellite images. Then, we are looking at, for certain crops, we are looking at, in certain regions, we're looking at as high as 85%. But certain other crops, it might be lesser because the variability is higher there. And I'll come to that later, regarding data.
Thanks. Moving on to the next round of questions. It's a common question for all of you. What came out in our research and your opening comments also is the role of ecosystems in driving adoption of AI in agriculture in India. Can you elaborate your top 3, suggestions to drive more ecosystem participation? Roli, first up, would you like to jump in?
Okay, sure. I'll go first. So there are many players in the ecosystem. Obviously, we know that the agri-tech companies are kind of leading the march. In FY20, I read somewhere that there were 133 deals, and they are getting backed very strongly by venture capitalists. In FY20, again, about $1 billion raised by agri-tech companies. So obviously, that is one part of the ecosystem which is really thriving. And the other trend that I'm noticing, and borne out very well by Unni's presence here today, is that all large stakeholders, whether it's fertilizer companies or pesticide companies or seed companies, or even on the finance side, bankers, insurers, commodity traders, everybody is really looking to up their technology game and their AI game. So that sector is also putting in money into driving up the demand for application of AI in agriculture. And, that's a very positive sign. The other very important driver of this ecosystem is the government. And I want to, take 2 minutes to talk about this. As you all know, government in India is not one thing. It means many ministries, many state governments, many agencies such as IMD and ISRO, and many remote sensing agencies of state governments. So while there is no doubt that a lot of positive push has come from the government, actually starting at the very top with the Prime Minister talking about it, you all know that there are many cogs in this wheel. Now, a lot of startups work with government agencies on some really good programs that are meant to drive the use of AI in agriculture. You know, some very good programs are in place, and a lot of agri-tech startups are partnering with the government. But, you know, when we talk to a lot of these companies, one common thread that is emerging is that invariably there are cash flow issues when you work with the government. And it becomes really difficult for startups to manage some of those cash flows. And investors particularly are very wary of that. So this is one point I wanted to make about the ecosystem, that you know, there are mostly tailwinds, and of course the government is playing a very, very positive role in this, but I'm noticing a little bit of a contradiction in the way the government's role is being perceived by the other very important stakeholder in the ecosystem, which is the investors.
Thank you, Roly. I think that's very good. Same question to you, Praveen. In case you have anything to add on what points Roly already mentioned, please go ahead.
Yeah, I think Roly has a very valid point, and there is a need for investment and the right kind of investment, and whether public or private, I think is a very important discussion to have. For me, and I come back to this much more as to my role as maybe developing even like AI algorithms, and this is looking at it from a different lens, and now from the lens of somebody who's been observing this for many years. I can say that one of the things which an ecosystem has to play is also in building people, you know, with the right skill sets. So one of the challenge that we are seeing is, let's take, for example, you know, Earth observation, agriculture, and AI. You know, these three things together. So we find that there is, you know, experts in agriculture, there are experts in AI, there are experts in Earth observation, but not people who understand all of them, you know. So somehow we have to bridge this, you know, and many other parts of the world, that bridge is already made. And that's it's more in terms of developing the skill set, you know, and we have a responsibility towards that as well. Building the right skill set, because right now it's a little bit disbalanced more towards AI. You know, there are many AI practitioners, many AI developers who are bringing it. And that's like, you know, AI itself is democratized. And I think the next stage should be that we should also democratize data, democratize availability of, you know, for example, satellite images is already available, high resolution satellite images, you know. And the recent move by the Indian government to also in that direction is very, very positive. And I'd also like to say that, you know, I think there is a lot of space for everyone. You know, everyone have like complementary skills to bring into this direction. And there is a larger problem that we have to solve. It's a complex problem that we have to solve. One of the most complex problems maybe. And it only is possible through collaboration of maybe these public universities, government bodies, private sectors, and individuals.
Thank you, Praveen. Mani, you know, given your experience of working across different projects, India, globally, are there any examples that you want to share? I mean, use cases within India, outside of India, where ecosystem collaborations have come together and really yielded fruit in the sector? Go ahead, 2 minutes.
No, absolutely. I think Praveen concluded with one important element, you know, as we call out the stakeholders, ecosystem players. Collaboration is the key. And we do have examples of how, and I would put government first in terms of the stakeholder in the ecosystem. Government is an incumbent of sorts in this sector. They have access to a lot of this thing. They control a lot of elements of this sector in the right spirit, right? So therefore, they have a lot of, and there are examples and case studies that we know of, you know, governments collaborating with the technology providers like the Microsoft, the IBMs of the world. There are fantastic case studies that we have seen in terms of results over the last 3, 4, 5 years, examples of that happening. The second aspect, when I look at the stakeholders, government, the large technology players that can provide you the global data sets and platforms for the AI aspect of it to flourish in the sector. The third element is the vibrant agri-tech startup ecosystem, which Roni mentioned about the support, the funding aspects as well. So like an enterprise, government is an enterprise in the sector. Every organization is going through a startup accelerator program and taking care of mentorship, funding. Government definitely has to play the role here in the sector to make sure that there is funding and so on and so forth from the startup standpoint. So larger responsibility for the government, credit to it in terms of several programs that they have taken, multiple use cases, right, in terms of collaboration from a state government standpoint. There are platforms, several of them, and some of what even Roni and Praveen represent in terms of case studies where these are applicable.
Thank you. Thank you, Mani. So great. I think we're out of time. Quick takeaways for me. Tremendous potential of AI to transform Indian agricultural sector, but it's imperative for the ecosystem to come together. There is this example of Netherlands that I want to leave the audience with. It's there in the report, by the way. The country is similar in size to Kerala. Okay, it's like 1/80th of the size of India, but has become the second largest exporter in the world of, when it comes to food in terms of value. And this is all because of leveraging technology and AI. The ecosystem in Netherlands, government, industry, research institutions has come together to achieve this. Isn't this a great role model for us to follow? I just want to leave the audience with this thought. Mani, Roli, Praveen, on behalf of NASSCOM Insights, India AI, and the KTech Center of Excellence for Data Science and AI, I would like to thank all of you for sharing your thoughts today. To the audience, thank you for attending the session. We will get back to you with answers to your questions in the chat. For more details, do download the NASSCOM ENY report, Leveraging AI to Maximize India's Agriculture Output, that is now available on the NASSCOM community and the NASSCOM website. Back to you, Sudeep. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Achyuta. Thanks, everybody. I saw a couple of questions in regards to the report. It is available now. You can go ahead and download it. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.